Hey everyone, and welcome. Most of us have seen braces, maybe even worn them, but today we're going to pull back the curtain and really look at the incredible engineering that makes them work. It's this amazing story of constant innovation, all driving towards one single thing, creating that perfect smile.
So let me start with a question for you. What on earth could an invention from the Roaring '20s have to do with the super high-tech orthodontics that we have in the 21st century?
Well, the answer is everything. It's the actual blueprint for the advanced appliances we use today. It's a story about a century-long quest for pure precision. So let's dive in.
Okay, so our story really starts with the most fundamental challenge in orthodontics. How do you get complete, three-dimensional control over every single tooth? Believe me, it wasn't as simple as just pushing them into a nice, neat line. The guy you have to know is Edward Angle, the father of modern orthodontics. He went through this incredible series of inventions trying to crack this puzzle. First, he had the E-arch, which could really only tip teeth. Then came the pin and tube. It was precise, sure, but way too complicated to actually use. After that, the ribbon arch, and this was a huge step. It had the first springy wire and was great for alignment. But the real breakthrough, the one that changed absolutely everything, came in 1928. It's called the Edgewise appliance.
And this slide right here shows you just how massive that leap was. See, the ribbon arch was good at straightening the crown, the part of the tooth you can see, but it had almost no control over the root. The Edgewise appliance, just by changing how the slot was oriented and using a rectangular wire, gave orthodontists precise control over both the crown and the root in all three dimensions. That was the game changer.
Okay, so now you've got this amazing new appliance. Great. But how do you actually stick it to the teeth so it's secure and in the perfect spot? This was the next big problem they had to solve.
For decades, the only answer was these metal bands. But then, modern technology gave us a whole new option: bonding. So what's the real difference between them, and why do we actually still use both today?
Well, bands are basically what they sound like: metal rings that get cemented all the way around the tooth. They are incredibly strong, which is why they're still the #1 choice for molars that have to deal with really heavy forces, like from headgear. Bonded brackets, on the other hand, are glued right onto the front surface of the tooth. This completely revolutionized orthodontics. It made braces look so much better and feel way more comfortable, especially for all those front teeth.
And the process for modern bonding? It's actually pretty elegant. First, you meticulously prep the tooth surface by etching it. This creates these microscopic little pores for the adhesive to grab onto. Then, the adhesive goes on the bracket and it's pressed into place. Finally, a special light cures the resin, creating this super strong, reliable bond in just a matter of seconds. Simple, right? But incredibly effective.
So, with brackets now securely bonded on, the next big innovation was all about efficiency. I mean, what if you didn't have to spend hours making all these tiny, super complex bends in the arch wire for every single patient? What if the bracket itself did all the heavy lifting?
And that is the core idea of the straight wire appliance. Instead of a one-size-fits-all bracket that needed a crazy customized wire, the inventors created a system where each tooth gets its own unique bracket. All the ideal angles and positions are built right into the hardware from the start.
Let's break that down. First up, you've got what are called first-order bends. These are the in and out adjustments you need because, well, every tooth has a different thickness and shape. The straight wire system solves this by just changing the thickness of the bracket base itself. This lets the wire run in a straight line right across the front. Next, we have second-order bends. These control the tip, or that forward and backward angle of the root. So instead of bending the wire, you just angle the slot in the bracket. The wire slides in straight, but because that slot is angled, it automatically puts the tooth at the perfect inclination. Pretty smart, huh?
And finally, there are third-order bends, or torque. This controls the in and out tilt of the root. This used to mean putting a really precise twist in that rectangular wire for every single tooth. Now, that twist is built right into the bracket slot. The crucial point here is that the orthodontist can use a relatively straight, pre-formed arch wire, which makes everything so much more efficient and consistent.
So the straight wire idea was a total revolution, but it was still based on averages. The next logical step then was to go from a universal prescription to a truly personalized one for every single patient. And that's where we enter the digital age.
Of course, patients have always wanted braces that are less noticeable. But the first attempts at clear or tooth color brackets, well, they had a lot of problems. Plastic brackets would stain and they just weren't strong enough. The early ceramic ones were brittle.
They created too much friction for the wire, and sometimes they were a real nightmare to remove safely.
The solution to all of these headaches actually came from a totally different world: digital design and manufacturing.
Modern custom appliances follow this just incredible workflow. It all starts with a digital scan of your mouth. Then, software is used to simulate the perfect final result. Based on that simulation, a totally unique bracket is designed for every single tooth, and then is 3D printed. And to top it all off, a custom tray is used to bond all those brackets onto the teeth in the exact position that was planned. It is precision on a level that's just mind-blowing.
All right, so we've covered moving teeth with incredible precision. But what about keeping other teeth from moving when you don't want them to? This is the whole concept of anchorage, and honestly, it's one of the oldest and trickiest challenges in all of orthodontics.
The modern solution is something called a temporary anchorage device, or a TAD for short. It's basically a tiny, biocompatible titanium screw that gets temporarily placed in the jawbone to act as a completely stable, immovable anchor point.
And this is the key. You know Newton's law? For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction? Well, in the past, if you pulled some teeth forward, other teeth would inevitably move backward. But TADs give you what's called absolute anchorage. They give the orthodontist something to pull against that just will not budge, which allows for tooth movements that used to be incredibly difficult, if not flat out impossible.
And their success isn't just luck. It is pure science. Literally everything matters. The design of the screw, the diameter, the length has to perfectly match the density of the bone it's going into. The placement is absolutely critical to avoid tooth roots. And the ultimate stability? That comes from its contact with the dense outer layer of bone, which is called the cortical bone.
Today, anchorage has evolved even further, from those single screws to more robust mini plates that are held in by multiple screws. This gives orthodontists this powerful and precise toolkit to confidently take on even the most complex cases you can imagine.
So, think about the journey we've just been on. We went from simple tipping forces all the way to custom, 3D printed appliances with absolute, immovable anchor points. Which brings us to one last thought. If a perfect bracket can be designed for every single tooth, and anchorage is now absolute, what's the next great problem for orthodontic technology to solve?